Members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for logging in this evening and joining us for the ceremonial launch of hashtag Financing for ESG, which we'll refer to interchangeably thereafter with Financing for ESG. This is a collaboration between Bursa Malaysia and Malaysian financial institutions to help public listed companies advance the adoption of environmental, social, and governance, or as we all know it as, ESG practices in their business. Now, ESG is no longer a novelty concept. It has mainstreamed, with investors increasingly demanding for sustainable business practices by listed companies that go well beyond the call of philanthropy or tree planting. So to tell us more about what each of them are doing to advance this cause, we have Yang Berbahagia Datuk Muhammad Umar Swift, Chief Executive Officer of Bursa Malaysia Berhad, Mr. Joel Conright, Group Chief Executive Officer of Alliance Bank Malaysia Berhad, and Yang Berbahagia Dr. Ong Eng Beng, Chief Executive Officer of OCBC Bank Malaysia Berhad. To start, we will call on Bursa Malaysia, which has done much in the space of ESG, and we'd like to hear how this collaboration will add more depth. For that, let me invite Yang Berbahagia Dr. Umar from Bursa Malaysia to open. Dr. Umar, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Dom. Joel Conright, Group Chief Executive Officer, Alliance Bank Malaysia Berhad. Yang Berbahagia Dr. Ong Eng Beng, Chief Executive Officer of OCBC Bank Malaysia Berhad. Members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to you all. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to the virtual signing ceremony for the hashtag Financing for ESG initiative. Wherever you are, I wish you all the best of health and hope that everyone is staying safe. The COVID-19 pandemic and more recently the UN Climate Conference COP26 emphasized the need for companies to incorporate sustainable practices as a means to achieve business resilience. The value proposition of incorporating ESG considerations into asset allocations is reflected in the growing demand for value-based investing. According to a recent Deutsche Bank and Global Sustainable Investment Alliance analysis, portfolios with ESG mandates are expected to reach US $160 trillion by 2036. This would mean close to 100% ESG integration into funds management. Further, there is a large body of data suggesting that value-based and ESG investing have provided comparable and in many cases better financial returns than conventional investments. Moreover, despite the market's recent downturn triggered by the COVID-19 outbreak, most ESG assets have outperformed their non-sustainable counterparts, and this trend is expected to continue. Given these developments, there is a growing recognition that good ESG practices are no longer nice to have, but rather a must-have if businesses are to remain resilient in this post-pandemic era. Ladies and gentlemen, as the preferred marketplace for sustainable and responsible investing, with high standards of sustainable practices and disclosure, Bursa Malaysia continues to play a key role in promoting the sustainability agenda amongst our listed issuers. For instance, the FTSE for Good Bursa Malaysia Index has played an important role in recognising companies that have taken steps to improve their ESG practices and disclosures. Since its launch in 2014, the number of constituents in the index has tripled from 24 to 76 as of June 2021. As we anticipate the number of constituent stocks to grow very quickly. More recently, in July 2021, we launched the FTSE for Good Bursa Malaysia Sharia Index to meet the financial community's sustainable and Sharia-compliant investment needs. In addition to the ESG-related indices I've mentioned, we're also increasing our efforts to work with strategic partners to promote sustainable practices and enhance sustainable practitioners' competencies. In this respect, the Bursa Malaysia Sustainability Roadmap 2021-2023 outlines the various ways in which we hope to better support and contribute to the transition to a green economy. Ladies and gentlemen, the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding between Bursa Malaysia, Alliance Bank and OCBC Bank today is a culmination of a year of discussions and preparation. This collaboration opens another window of opportunity for a wide range of collaborative activities, particularly in the area of advancing ESG adoption amongst Malaysian PLCs. We will collaborate to develop sustainable financing options that recognise PLC's ESG credentials in accordance with FTSE for Good assessment criteria. Sustainable financing will enable PLCs the opportunity to accelerate their ESG adoption while also enhancing their ESG ratings for inclusion in the FTSE for Good Bursa Malaysia Index, which is the Malaysian capital market's leading ESG index. PLCs will also benefit from collaboration, branding and capacity building exercises. This includes, amongst others, the exposure to the exchange, investor relations engagement and event platforms, as well as the opportunity to participate in specialized technical workshops on climate-related disclosures. Ultimately, the collaboration today looks at spurring the growth of sustainable finance while also enhancing PLC's appeals to investors. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Alliance Bank and Ocbc Bank for their commitment in strengthening our collaborative ties to advance Malaysian PLC's ESG adoption agenda. I'm sure that this collaboration and the #financing for ESG initiative will result in significant and tangible benefits to us, the PLCs and the capital market. Last, but certainly not least, I would like also to thank everyone who helped make today's virtual MOU signing a reality. Thank you. Back to you, Dom.
Thank you, Dr. Umar. And now to hear how Alliance Bank will help take this collaboration forward, I invite Mr. Conroy to say a few words. Mr. Conroy?
Thank you, and good evening. Dato Muhammad Umar Swift, Chief Executive Officer of Bursa Malaysia Berhad, Dato Ong Eng Bin, Chief Executive Officer of OCBC Bank Malaysia, ladies and gentlemen. Well, first of all, thank you to Bursa Malaysia for inviting us to be part of this collaboration to help businesses be more sustainable in the long run. Our sustainability program at Alliance Bank is an extension of our vision, which is to be the preferred bank of business owners. Alliance Bank has always been focused on helping business owners succeed. Indeed, we fund their businesses with financial solutions and help them manage and grow their business with non-financial solutions that are offered by our partners. So we want to help business owners adopt environmental, social, and governance practices and innovations to reduce carbon footprint. Because when businesses make sustainable choices, they can be a force for good for the community and the environment. So our collaboration with Bursa Malaysia enables us to help businesses large and small to innovate and grow sustainably via addressing their needs holistically. For example, we facilitate access to government guaranteed schemes for SMEs, such as the Targeted Relief and Recovery Facility, Dana Jamin's Green Financing Technology Scheme 3.0, or SGPP. For the larger businesses, we have green or sustainable capital market funding instruments. We also offer non-financial value propositions via our over 150 partners on our Bismart Solution portal to help businesses for growth opportunities. With the help of Bursa, we will perform sustainability gap analysis to help businesses identify areas for improvement and develop a roadmap towards improving their sustainability ratings. We help mid to small cap companies with their supply chain sustainability requirements to open up their export market opportunities. As I mentioned, business owners can leverage on our network of sustainable solution providers via our Bismart Solution portal partners to obtain the relevant services they need at an affordable price. Additionally, we help provide brand visibility and marketing opportunities to expand their reach, and we make available resources for training, webinars, and articles to help with their sustainability journey. So in closing, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank the teams at Bursa Malaysia and Alliance Bank for building this partnership to bring forth opportunities for businesses in Malaysia. We're excited to see this collaboration grow and achieve the intended reach for sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conroy. Well, good things comes in threes, and we're happy to also have OCBC Bank as part of the collaboration. And so to hear from a bank that believes we can do well by doing good, we invite Yang Berbahagia Dato' Ong. Dato' Ong?
Thank you. Friends from Bursa, as well as Alliance Banks and colleagues from OCBC, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, we are extremely delighted to have been chosen by Bursa Malaysia as one of its first pioneer financial partners for this program. OCBC is committed to manage our business sustainably and believe that we do well by doing good. We certainly look forward to this collaboration that we can have with Bursa, because we can leverage on each other's competencies to accelerate the adoption of ESG practices amongst Malaysian PLCs, because they are the forefront of businesses. We can do this by synergizing OCBC Bank's experience in pioneering various sustainable finance solutions and capitalizing on Bursa's ESG database. Over the years, we have gradually built up our sustainable finance product suite to cover the entire spectrum of both conventional and Islamic financing solutions, and we have achieved several industry firsts along the way. For instance, we structured the world's first Islamic syndicated multi-currency sustainably linked financing for Axiata Group Berhad using the FTSE for Good database as an invaluable reference point. Through this very innovative financing structure, Axiata was able to enjoy lower financing costs as a direct result of meeting its annual sustainability targets. On the back of this successful transaction, we hope to continue the process by structuring similarly groundbreaking forms of sustainable financing facilities with other PLCs as a means to support the advancement of the sustainability agenda. Working collaboratively with Bursa Malaysia, we remain focused on our plan to promote ESG best practices amongst the PLC community and encourage more to come forward in the new normal. On that note, thank you very much, Bursa and Malaysia, for being our partner in this journey in line with the Malaysian government's commitment towards achieving carbon neutrality by 2050. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ong. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, now we may not be physically gathered together, but that doesn't curtail good things from moving forward. It gives us great pleasure to invite representatives from Bursa Malaysia, Alliance Bank, and OCBC Bank to ceremonially sign the Memorandum of Understanding. This MOU signifies the launch of #Financing for Good collaboration between the three parties, Bursa Malaysia, Alliance Bank, and OCBC Bank, in coming together to support public listed companies through sustainable financing that address and create positive ESG impact within their business operations. And with that, helping to accelerate the sustainability agenda in the capital market through public listed companies. Now, to mark the occasion, Dr. Umar, Mr. Conroy, and Dr. Ong, on my count of three, please hold up the MOU documents for a group photo. 1, 2, 3. Excellent. Okay, yes. Okay, then let's do one photo. Okay, maybe that, yes, that's right. That's a good one. Okay. Okay, now, gentlemen, please stay on screen while we invite your representatives to join you for another photo session. Wong Cheon-Chek for Bursa Malaysia, Fawzia Amanullah for Alliance Bank, and Tan Ai Chin for OCBC Bank. And one more time. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Excellent. Smile one more time. Okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Ladies and gentlemen. Now, members of the media, we've heard from each representative how they will advance the ESG agenda through this collaboration. To help provide more context and landscape behind this initiative, the factors driving the acceleration for ESG in the capital market, we have arranged for a short presentation by Wong Cheon-Chek Senior Executive Vice President of Bursa Malaysia, to explain details about this initiative. Now, Chun Chek, or CC, as he's better known within the industry, he's the Bursa data business. His team manages and is responsible for the administering of the FTSE4Good Bursa Malaysia Index. They engage with listed companies who seek to improve their sustainability performance and to be assessed to attain the FTSE4Good Bursa Malaysia rating. With that, I turn the screen over to CC.
Good evening, Dr. Umar, Joel, Dr. Ong, Aichin, and Puan Fozia, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Essentially, Bursa will collaborate with Alliance Bank and OCBC Bank to develop and offer sustainable financing to PLCs specific to their ESG needs in accordance to the FTSE4Good assessment criteria. The FTSE4Good Bursa Malaysia Index is the headline index for the Bursa Malaysia capital market. Through the collaboration, PLCs will not only gain access to competitive sustainable financing with banks who have track record in serving their respective customer segments, Bursa will also provide gaps analysis to assist PLCs understand where they are and where they can work on to improve their ESG rating. Here is a short presentation with more details of the initiative. Let's start with an assessment of the ESG landscape amongst PLC. Based on a recent survey conducted with 150 PLCs across multiple sectors and market capitalization, there is a clear call to action for Bursa to play a facilitative role in advancing their ESG adoption journey. When asked why do PLCs adopt ESG, 2/3 say they do it because of shareholder requirements, while close to 1/3 say they are under pressure from their supply chain stakeholders, such as their customers and vendors. When asked how may Bursa help, 71% is asking for advice to facilitate their ESG journey, and quoted a need to source for credible, sustainable solutions and also competitive financing options. When asked which sustainability area are applicable to their business, 80% quoted energy emission as their top consideration, followed by waste management at 68%, GHG emission and water consumption at the 40% rate. And when asked if they are interested to raise capital via sustainable bond or sukuk, 16% of the PLC said yes, while 62% are interested to find out more. Here is the joint value proposition. So we believe that the hashtag financing for ESG initiative represents a win-win proposition for Bursa Malaysia, the banks, as well as participating PLC. For Bursa, greater ESG adoption by the PLC will likely see an increase in the number of constituents in the FTSE4Good Bursa Malaysia Index, which will make the Malaysia market more attractive to investors. This is in line with Bursa's vision to be a leading sustainable and globally connected marketplace. For the banks, the insights and data garnered from the FTSE4Good ESG ratings and assessment criteria allow them to develop and offer sustainable financing to PLCs with specific ESG focus areas. And this method is consistent also to the recently announced Bank Negara principle-based climate change taxonomy guidelines. For the PLCs, this represents an opportunity to both accelerate their ESG adoption in a manner which will bring positive impact to their business, but also a chance to improve their ESG rating and corporate profile to ESG conscious investor, which is a KPI for many sustainability practitioners within the existing FTSE4Good constituent. Lastly, this is the engagement model between Bursa and the two banks. Under this initiative, Bursa will review and identify PLCs that are interested to improve their ESG rating and qualify or maintain their FTSE4Good index standing. We will conduct a gap analysis to pinpoint specific ESG gaps and focus area and recommend them to the PLCs, and engage and advise them as well as seeking feedback for their plans and approaches. Upon validation with the PLCs, Bursa will work with Alliance Bank and OCBC Bank to explore solutions which would help to mitigate or improve the identified focus areas. We would also tap into our partnership ecosystem to look for credible green solution providers or consultants if it fits the PLC's requirements. The bank would then develop and incorporate the solution into their value proposition model, and we will jointly present it back to the PLC. The value proposition may come in the form of financial or non-financial aspects, such as fast-track approval processes tied to rates, tiered or differentiated by ESG criteria. The FTSE for Good methodology is an independent and credible rating system based on public disclosure and is aligned to global standards, such as Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, TCFD, or Global Reporting Initiative, GRI. There are currently close to 300 PLCs with ESG rating in the database. So I hope this initiative provides a framework which may form the foundation where new like-minded ecosystem partners and new collaboration models can be further developed as the initiative gets underway. Lastly, the hashtag financing for ESG initiative is managed by Bursa's Index and Sustainable Business Unit, and interested parties are welcome to contact us. More details will follow shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, CC. And with that, we move on to the last item on this evening's agenda. Now, members of the media, this collaboration being the first of its kind, we imagine you may have some questions about it. So please, the chat box is open for you. You can write your questions down there. So how it's going to work is you type in your questions, it will pop up on my screen and help to read it on behalf. And just to help us identify and address you, please include your name and media house together with your question. So while you are writing in your questions, just let me introduce our panelists. For Bursa Malaysia, we have Dr. Umar and Sisi. Alliance Bank will be represented by Mr. Conrad and Forza Amanullah, Deputy Group Chief, Corporate Banking and Business Development Officer. And Dr. Ong Ing Beng with Tan Ai Chin, Managing Director, Senior Banker, and Head of Investment Banking for OCBC Bank. Okay, so let's just wait for the questions to come in. Right. Okay, maybe I'll just start the ball rolling. Okay. Maybe this one's for you, Dr. Omar. This is quite interesting, but maybe you could just tell us a little bit more about what Bursa Malaysia will help to bring to the table through this collaboration. Okay, Dato, we just need you to, yes.
There we go. I'm back with us all. I mean, why the marketplace? What is Bursa looking to do? We've reached out, of course, to our friends at Alliance Bank, who we had an MOU with earlier, and thank you for the support, Joel. Appreciate it, and it's going from strength to strength. We then took that strategic initiative and we're looking to extend it and, if you like, really demonstrate to PLCs and particularly the mid-caps that ESG is not a cost, it is an investment in some ways, but it also reaps dividends. And, as a listed co, we have adopted ESG practices. We've shared we wish to be carbon neutral by 2022, so that's our next year objective, and while a longer term objective of meeting net zero requirements for 2050. Now, I think what we're seeing now as the frontline regulator, and we're driving disclosure and taxonomy, that we need to also, if you like, there is the stick, which is defined and necessary disclosure, so people can make, investors, retail and institutional can make informed decisions, while also then showing that green ESG, environment, social and governance issues do have bottom line impact that is positive, and hence the start of this an initiative, which is to drive hashtag FTSE for Good.
Thank you, Dr. Umar. Okay, we've got one from Manesh Samtani from Regulation Asia. I think, CC, this would be for you. Do you expect other financial institutions to also join this initiative besides Alliance Bank and OCBC?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Dom. So we started the program with Alliance Bank a year ago with the MOU, and OCBC approached us with a similar concept, and we started the engagement process as well as the program with OCBC. So we hope these two serve as the catalyst to the market. Of course, when we look at the banks that we are working with, if they are like-minded banks that are looking for specific areas in terms of segments that we may not be covering now, we are open to speak to them. Of course, we can't be working with every single bank in Malaysia, so we will be looking for maybe one or two more.
Thanks, Cece. Mr. Conroy, this is for you. Alliance Bank is a strong advocate for sustainability. Maybe you can let us know a little bit more about the bank's sustainability goals.
First of all, thank you very much to Omar for the shout out. This is our second initiative, facilitated also by Fozia, by the way, in our team. So very proud of that. So our sustainability goals are quite simple. Like I said earlier, what we aim to do is to help businesses be successful, and we think part of that success is to help them adopt these environmental, social, and governance principles and practices. Because, like Dr. Omar said, it's an investment in improving the society and the community, not just looking at the environment or the expense of it, but it helps every one of us. So in the next 4 years, our sustainability goals are focusing on 3 areas. One is to achieve 5 billion in new sustainable banking business. And number 2 is obviously to help our customers transition to more sustainable practices. And number 3, charity begins at home, they say, so improve the way we operate in an environmentally and socially responsible way. Additionally, we are establishing sectoral policies for ESG treatment of high-risk sectors, such as palm oil, mining and quarrying, forestry, logging, and oil and gas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conroy. Edward, thank you for your question. Edward starts with a comment. I believe it's a timely and much needed initiative to provide the impetus for more PLCs to get on board the ESG movement. My question for Bursa is, for like-minded parties who are green solution providers and interested to work with Bursa, how and who do they contact at Bursa?
Actually, that's a very good question. There are a couple of elements at Bursa. We have Bursa 1818 as a PLC. You would be speaking to our Director of Sustainability, Amelia. If we're looking at the index space, FTSE for Good, the initiative we are looking at today, of course, it would be CC, who has joined this call with me. If we're looking at the broader context of disclosure, etc., it would be a gentleman by the name of Wong Kei Yong, who is not on this call today. So we have a number of different touch points. But when all else fails, just reach out to me and I'll put you in touch with the right person. It would be my pleasure.
Thanks, Dr. Umar. Dr. Ong, we've got one for you. How would this collaboration between Bursa Malaysia and OCBC fit into your overall ESG roadmap?
Thanks for the question. Well, for OCBC, our journey in sustainability began a couple of years ago. I think being a Singapore bank, we've always been very conscious about where we are and what we want to do. So I think early on, we had a journey plan in terms of sustainable financing. To a certain extent in Singapore, because of the geographical constraints of the country, the things that they could do were mainly green buildings, energy efficient activities. But they realized that across the region, there are many potential for OCBC to collaborate. So I think we have that mapped out now across the region where we operate, mainly in Malaysia, China, Hong Kong, and even Indonesia, and very parts of the world that we operate. So we have been financing even wind farms in other countries. Now we have a plan specifically for Malaysia, because as an industry, we realize that our impact is very great, because not just through ourselves, but through all the customers that we service and serve, there are plenty of things that we can influence. We took that initiative to even get our own ESG rating worked out with RAM to make sure that we benchmark ourselves to best practices so that we can also guide our customers through that journey. And to achieve this, we actually embed these targets that by 2025, we want to have at least 15% of our loans on ESG type of instruments. And for investments, again, predominantly, the next 5 years, it will be all these types of investment, which would tie in very, closely with what we are doing with Bursa today to make sure that all the companies are all in that right journey and on the right path. But of course, we realize that at this moment, we have to support the transition because we are beginning this journey. So many companies need a lot of guidance and need a lot of help also. So some of these industries need that kind of help in that transition period. So we're always there to provide them and guide them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ong. Okay, I believe this could be a follow-on question for Fauzia, following on from Mr. Conright's. The question here is, what are the other initiatives on Alliance Bank's sustainability agenda?
Thank you, Dom, for the question. The bank today is focused on two key priorities. One is to help business owners transform sustainability, and the other is to empower the communities to be more sustainable. So for businesses, we will implement the ESG policies and practices in their bank's business strategy. And predominantly, this will help us also address the operations to reduce our business carbon footprint. We will also help SMEs to transition to sustainable business models by linking banking products to sustainable priorities. We are also helping customers reduce their carbon footprint by enabling access to non-financial solutions at work or third-party advisory to help them go through this transition. Now, for the community as a whole, we will promote financial empowerment of SMEs through education, upskilling, training, and providing them with the right financing. Now, example of this would be the BizSmart solution portal that we have today. We also have an SME banking webinars. And if you've seen our BizSmart Challenge, our yearly event of BizSmart Challenge, now we will support and uplift the financial well-being of the vulnerable communities as well. And this is via our non-financial propositions under the social biz and economic empowerment programs. So these are some of the activities that we have put in place and initiative to address the sustainability agenda. Thank you, Dom.
Thank you, Fauzia. Okay. So this is quite an interesting question, and Aijin, this is directed at you. What are some of the sectors in the region that might have been overlooked so far, for example, apart from the obvious ones like renewable energy or agriculture, that could be natural candidates to benefit from ESG financing?
Thanks, Dom, for the question. I think the current state of development in most countries is in the obvious industries like renewable energy, green building, as mentioned by Dr. Ong just now. I think one of the key areas that would gain more prominence in the area of ESG awareness is really to evolve around sustainable supply chain. I think in essence, this entails ensuring that at each value-added stages of the production cycle, it would have to encompass ESG review into consideration. And I think the new generation of consumers are really conscious on how and where the raw materials are sourced, how is the labor treated in the supply chain, among others. I'm sure all of you have seen the impact of the treatment of labor to some companies and how it has actually impacted even the market performance for these companies as well. So clearly, it is not just about doing it right at your own area, but it is also treating each of your value chain supplier, consumers, the staff that has been working with you well. I think that is the most important thing. And I think another less heard product in the regional market is really about blue bond. I mean, we heard a lot about green bond, but I think what is about blue bond? I think this is really to finance the conservation of marine and aquatic biodiversity, among others. I think this is extremely critical given that Malaysia, and of course, in fact, in many other Asian countries, we are surrounded by sea, and a huge part of our community depends on sustainable marine ecosystem to earn a living. So this is definitely a very important path. And I think at OCBC, while we look at sectors, we are also helping the customers to look at their company level, their ESG framework as well. So this is what, the tie-up with Bursa is very critical. The FTSE for Good Index has been a very good benchmark for us to use to actually support, the customer's journey towards, enhancing their ESG journeys. And we have actually done a few of these, Dr. Ong has mentioned about the one that we've done for Axiata. We have also done for Sunway as well, where we have also used the benchmark of, in addition to the various other, sustainability target index, we also use the index of, ESG framework as the FTSE for Good Index as actually a benchmark as well. So this is certainly what we hope to be able to achieve, besides ensuring that the companies that are already in FTSE for Good remain there. That means they actually do good to maintain there. We also want to help companies that are not yet in the FTSE for Good to be able to create a path towards moving towards, achieving that target to be admitted to the FTSE for Good Index. And I think that's important, for the overall economic and also, the investor demand for their stocks as well. Thanks, Dom.
Thanks, Aichin. This is an interesting follow-up question that we've received. Thanks, Anis, from Malaysian Reserve. So Anis asks, can any panelists share the challenges and risks in adopting the ESG?
I might start, if I may. It is not the risk of adopting ESG, it is actually the risk of not adopting ESG is what we should be thinking about. The drive for governance started some 15 years ago in Malaysia. We're now very much focused on environment, courtesy of COP26. If you like, that has really gained momentum. The last aspect, of course, is social. Malaysia is a trading nation, which means we trade. It is not all domestic consumption. If we wish to remain relevant and a part of global supply chains, we do need to adopt ESG. And the ESG adoption is not just on the exporters, but everyone who has an input into that supply chain. So for purely selfish reasons, we do need to adopt ESG to remain relevant to our trading partners. And more importantly, it represents an opportunity to displace other people in the supply chain. Because of course the pandemic, supply chain disruption has been a large theme. Now, can we insert our businesses, our manufacturers into that supply chain? There is also a wonderful opportunity to pivot to green, that transition, and creating new jobs as we aspire to be a high-income economy. So I would perhaps humbly suggest it is not so much the challenges of adopting or the risks of adopting ESG, it is the risks of not adopting ESG. Now, the challenges, of course, are defining what it means to your business, if you like, the dual materiality, what it means to you and how you impact the world as well. So I think that, if you like, in a nutshell, ESG is not an option. Of course, on another level is if we continue to pollute and emit, climate change impacts all of us in wild weather and coastal changes. It will have a dramatic impact on the way we live our lives. And therefore, again, I would suggest it is something we must do. It is not nice to have, it is need to have.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Umar. Well, the floor is open if any of the other panelists would like to share their thoughts on this same question.
Yeah, maybe I can jump in down for the banking industry and how we see from the perspective of our customers. I guess the mindset shift has to happen because when people talk about ESG and things that is involved, they always think that it's a big cost issue. meaning if they improve the environment, if they want to treat their workers better, it will result in a higher cost to them. I think that's something that if you think of it in the short term, yes, it may have this issue, because if you do those right things, it will mean that you have to invest. But the banking industry is ready to help, because we've always believed that if you are moving in the right direction, the banks will support. In fact, the banking industry has highlighted many times that there's so many ability to fund investments in the right businesses. So we are always stand ready. Now, the long-term impact is most important, that we need to convince our customers that if you do this thing, go right the journey, be good to the community, to your workers, to the environment, I think in the long run, you'll be better. And not just that, I think the performance of your company, especially if you're a listed company, that itself will have a tremendous impact in terms of the attractiveness of your share to investors. So that's why, from our own perspective, we're trying to do from not just financing, but also from the investment angle. So we're trying to make sure that if you are a good customer, we'll make sure the other customers are also investing in your companies. So I think we want to create that kind of virtuous cycle. But of course, I think we are also talking about, just now Joel and Fauzia mentioned about the SMEs, because the SMEs are the ones that are probably the most challenged, because it appears that it's a big issue, especially after coming out from COVID. They're just fighting for survival. Don't tell me about all these things that I need to do because my cash flow is very tight. So I think we are there to also help them. I think the government has come out with many initiatives and many funds to help them through the transition. And I think the other part is also capturing all the good things that we've done. So I think that's where Bursa can help calibrate some of the things so that people can capture, and all the necessary disclosures can be made public. So that itself, like we always believe, what gets measured gets done. Thank you.
Well, I can only say that I agree 100%. That's what Vincent. Yeah, it's convincing people why they should care and why they should do something about it, right? I think that's going to be the most important challenge.
If I may just add, Dom. I think the key issue as well is really about would you be able to get a bank to fund you if you are not in ESG compliant company or project? I think that is the biggest risk that the company will face. For example, coal-fired power plant, over time, you will not be able to get any bankers to actually fund you. So seriously, the companies or the project alike, they will have to actually transcend to learn how to actually make it ESG compliance for their operations.
Sorry, if you don't mind, I can I just want to add a statement there. I think in many cases, when we see these SMEs, the question that they have is, I don't know how to be ESG compliant. So I don't think it's an issue of challenge or risk. I think they need to understand where or how to move forward on ESG. Maybe that's the part that needs a lot more education and understanding. But other than that, you see these guys, like what Dato' Ong mentioned earlier, they're struggling on what they face after the pandemic. So that's probably the priority today. But moving forward, it would be the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your thoughts on that very invigorating question. I think we have time for one last question before we wrap up. And CC, this sounds like it's for you. So, with this collaboration that the Bursa has started, what sort of outcome can the market expect from this?
Thanks for the question, Dom. So this initiative, we hope to use it as a launchpad or catalyst for ESG to become mainstream. What we are trying to do is to provide data, index the tools as well as to the banks. Typically, we use to serve it to the stakeholders in the capital market, but with the banks using the data right now, we are expanding the usage of ESG data. So we hope with that, if there will be an increase in the number of constituents in the FTSE for Good Bursa Malaysia Index, and that's a testimony of the better adoption of the PLCs as through the sustainable financing offered by the bank.
And if I may add to that, in a nutshell, we all agree, or we believe ESG is something we must do. We must look after our environment, we must be socially responsible, and we must have good governance. If we agree as a society these are things we should be doing, this is our way of rewarding good behaviour, showing that there's a difference, there's access to funding. It starts that virtuous cycle. And that's what is really key, because when you can raise capital, you can expand your businesses, you employ people, you make profit, you pay tax. And that's what it's all about. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Umar, for wrapping it up very well. So, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, thank you for your time this evening. This marks the end of today's event. Members of the media, just to let you know, we will be sending you a copy of the press release. But should you require any other assistance, please do reach out to the Bursa Malaysia team, Laila, Ashraf, or Dominica. With that, thank you once again, everyone. Stay safe and have a pleasant evening.